So today we are going to be learning how to Nålbind or Nålebinding. And the first thing that you're going to need is a needle. And right here I have a bone needle, and a lot of people have larger needles. I prefer mine to be small, and this one was made by my sister, and it is made out of cow bone. And then you're also going to need wool. So this is 100% wool yarn. And the reason you need wool yarn is because you are going to be felting it. And felting is water and friction, and that is what is going to be putting your project together. So you notice that I have a short length of yarn here. I don't have it connected to the ball. That's because this is going to be worked in short lengths of yarn, and then we're going to be felting those pieces of yarn together. So first we're going to thread the needle. I like to keep about 3 arm lengths of yarn available, but it is a personal preference in how much yarn you want to keep. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make our first knot. Now the thing about Nålebinding is that it's different than knitting and crocheting because you're going to be making knots instead of making loops. And this way, if you need to cut it at all, it's not going to fall apart on you. So it is, in a way, superior to knitting and crocheting. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make our first knot, and we're going to do what I call the W. And when I do this, you'll see what I'm talking about when I say W. So you're going to first put your yarn over your fingers like this, and you're going to hold it with your thumb, and you're going to wrap it around once so that you have a loop. So you have the yarn on top. Then you're going to be putting your yarn through the middle. So let's do that again. So you're going to put your yarn with the tail closest to your pinky, and you're going to hold it with your thumb, and you're going to wrap it around once so that you get a loop like this. Then we're going to take our needle and we're going to put it through the center, and we're going to pull through until we have 2 little loops like this. Loop. Then we're going to take this one and put it up like this, and this is what I call the W, so it makes a little, makes a little W. So this is going to be your very first knot, and you're going to put your thumb over this center loop right here. You're going to put your thumb right there, and then this yarn is going to come down across your finger. This one is also going to come across, and you're going to pull this tight so that it's over your thumb. So you notice that right here it makes a little X, and your working thread is underneath. So there's a little X here, your working thread is underneath, and then there is a loop in the back. So this is your very first knot. So in order to do the Oslo stitch, which is the most basic of stitches, you're going to take your needle and you're going to put it through this back loop facing away from you. Okay, so let's do that again. You're going to take your needle and you're going to put it into the back loop facing away from you. Then you're going to twist it towards you. So you're going to twist it towards you. And then you're going to put it underneath that X right there. So you're going to put it in, facing away from you, twist it towards you, and then put it underneath that X. And what you're going to do is you're going to pull it through. Now, you want to make sure that you're holding on to all of the yarn with your thumb and your first finger. So we're going to pull that through. All right, so now we have this extra string, and we're going to take it and we're going to put it away from us, and then we're going to pull this tight. So that is our second knot. So we still have our little X right here. There's our little X. And we have our loop in the back. So let's do this again. So you're going to take your needle, you're going to put it in away from you, twist it, put it underneath that X, and you're going to pull. And now you notice that there is an extra loop here. So you're going to take your old loop on your thumb, pull it off. So that's now going to become your back loop. And this is now going to become your X. So we're going to pull that tight. So we have our back loop, our X, which is migrating on us, but our X is right there, and then our back loop right here. So let's do this again. So you're going to take your needle, put it in away from you, twist it around, put it underneath that X, so both of these yarns, and then you're going to pull it. And then you have your new thread, and this is your old thread, and you're going to pop that off so that it's now your new loop, and then this is going to become your new X. So away from you, towards you, under that X, and pull. Old thread, new thread, so old one comes off and new one gets tightened. So let's do this a couple more times. All right, but say that you want to put this down and you're like, but my thumb, if I take my thumb out of this, I'm not gonna be able to pick it up again. So the way you do this is that you take it out. So this is now your running work. So this is what it looks like so far. And you set it down and you want to pick it back up. So when you pick it back up, you're going to look for that X. So there's that X right there. Gonna stick your thumb in there, and when you pull tight, it should be the one that tightens over your thumb. If the one that's over your thumb is not tightening, that's not the correct loop. So you're gonna have your loop behind and then your X on your thumb. So let's do this a few more times, and then we will teach you how, then I will teach you how to make a loop. Because the thing with Nålebinding is that it is always done in a tube shape. So you're always going to do it in the round. So let me do this a few more times and then I will show you how to make it into a tube. Okay, so I have my length right here. And the most important thing is you don't want it to twist like this when you are making it into the round. So you want to make sure that it's nice and straight. Then you're going to flip it around. So it's nice and straight this way. You're going to flip it around your fingers and you're going to hold it like this so that it's around like this. So the first stitch, if you notice, there are little stitches, one right here, one right here, one right here, one right here. These are the ones that you are going to be working into, is around the top here. So we're going to add on to what we have been doing. I have my loop in the back. I have my X right here. And then I'm going to take this and wrap it around. And I'm going to stick my needle in the very first loop right here. So I'm going to stick it in there away from myself. And then we're going to do the same thing that we did before. We're going to stick this in the back towards us, underneath, and then we're going to pull through. So now we have our old loop, our new loop. So this one's going to come off just like it did before. And then we're going to pull this tight. And then you can see that it is attached to that loop. So now we're going to go into the next loop, which is sitting right here. So we're going to go underneath that, and then into the back loop. So we're going to go into this one, away from us, then into the back loop, away from us. We're going to twist it around towards us, underneath that X, and then we're going to pull it through. So we have our old loop and our new X. So then the next one is going to be this loop right here. So we're going to stick it in away from us, then into the back loop away from us. Now we have 2 loops on our needle. We're going to twist it towards us and underneath that X, and we're going to pull it through. So now we have our old hoop, our new hoop. This one's going to come off, and we're going to tighten that down. So let's move on to the next one. We're going to go into this guy right here. So we're going to go in like this, into the back loop. So now we have 2 loops on our needle. We're going to twist it around, put it underneath that X, pull it through, all the time pinching it with your first finger and your thumb. We're going to pull it through, and then we're going to take off our old hoop and then tighten our new hoop. So now we have our X and our loop in the back. So let's do this a few more times. All right, so now you continue going around in the loop as you work your tube. And then the next thing I'm going to show you is how to add on yarn when you're done with the yarn that you have. Okay, so we're at the end of our length. We've been making our tube. So here's our tube so far. And now we're out of yarn. So now what we're going to do is we're going to felt a new piece onto here. So I have my new yarn right here, and I need to put these 2 together. So the way that I do this, not everybody does it this way, is I will take the 2 ends that I need, and then I have my bone comb right here, and I'm going to fray the ends of these. A lot of people will pull the yarn apart and then it will fray it for you. This is the easiest way that I have found to do this, is just to fray it with a comb. I'm just going to fray the end, make it nice and frayed. So you notice that that's a nice frayed end. So we have 2 ends that are nice and frayed. So now we have to get it wet, and there's 2 ways that you can do this. You lay them on top of each other, and I usually wrap this one around this way and this one around this way so that they wrap around each other. And now we need to get it wet. You can do it my way, or you can do it the old time way. The old time way is that you suck on it until it gets nice and wet. The way that I do it, I use water. So I take my splice right here, I hold it in between my fingers, I dunk it in the water, make sure it gets nice and saturated, roll it around, and then we have to create friction. So I will set this in my hand. You don't want to pull too hard right now. I will set it in my hand, take the palm of my other hand, set it on top of that splice, and start rubbing. Now you want to make sure that your top hand stays dry, so after a few rubs, take your hand, wipe it on your pants, wipe it on a towel, get it nice and dry, and then start again. And now we have our yarn spliced together. Now, until this dries, it is still a little delicate. So when you're using this, make sure that you are not pulling really hard, because this needs time to dry. Once it's dried, then it is together and you don't need to worry about it anymore. So now that that is spliced together, I go to the end of this one and I'm going to thread my needle again. And we're going to pick up where we left off. So we left this alone, and this is the beginning. So you notice there's a little knot there because I pulled tight on that and now it's a knot. So this is the beginning, and this is where we left off, is right here. So you pick it up like, oh my gosh, it just looks like a jumble. So remember, you have your back loop. So there's your back loop, and then there's your X. So you're going to stick your thumb in where the X is, pull tight, so you have your back loop and you have your X. So I'll show that to you again. So there's your back loop, there's your X, put your thumb in where the X is, pull tight, and now you have your back loop and your X. And then the next one we're going to work on is this guy. Put it in away from yourself, then away from yourself in the back loop. So now you have two on your needle. We're going to twist it around, put it underneath, and we're going to pull. Now when we pull, remember we have that splice, so we want to do this gently. So there's our splice, and it needs to go through this loop. So we're going to pull gently so that it doesn't rip apart. So we take off our old loop, tighten our new loop, and that's where our splice is. So we'll do it again. And then gently where the splice is. And now our splice is over our thumb, so that's where our splice is. Once we get past this point, then you don't really have to worry about it anymore. So now we're going to take that off our thumb, and now our splice is integrated into our tube. And now if we look back, that is where our splice is right there. And you're going to continue going around and around in a loop until you create what you want to. Now, in the end, you're going to be felting this entire thing so that it can shrink and it can become nice and warm. So whatever you're making, try and make it about 3 times the size of what you want. So let me show you some things that you can make. So the very first thing that I ever made was a pair of hand mittens. They're fingerless mittens, and this was the very first thing I ever made. You notice it's not felted all the way. I was a beginner, didn't know that you needed to felt it at the end, and so it's not the most beautiful thing on the planet, but it's functional, and it's just a tube with another tube put on. And all you do is that you skip a couple of stitches to make a hole, and then you put your tube on top. You can make all kinds of things. And then we have things like, this is an unfinished sock. Socks is one of my main things that I make, especially for my sister. So this is an unfinished sock. All it needs is to be felted. So this is a sock for my sister. And after you've felt it, so the easiest way to felt something is you put this in hot water. Don't rub it when you get it wet. You don't want to do that yet. You get it wet with hot water, and then you put it in the dryer with a towel, and then let it dry, and it will shrink, and all these fibers that you can see through will tighten up, and it will become nice and thick, like this mitten that I made. So it is nice and thick and all put together. And you can see that the last time I had this was outside, so there's a bunch of leaves on it. So this is a felted mitten. And then this is another felted mitten made with homemade yarn from my sister. Leaves again. So this is a homemade yarn, and this is a store-bought yarn. So you can see the difference, but it is nice and felted and very tight, and you can't see really any of the stitches now. And so now it's a very thick, warm mitten that you can wear, and it is fantastically warm. This is a hat that I made that I did not felt, so it is just orange, and so you can see all the beautiful stitches. This is a beautiful Oslo stitch. So you can make whatever you want. Sky's the limit. So go out there, make some beautiful things, and I believe in you. I believe that you can make wonderful things and keep this art alive, because it is slowly dying, and I want everyone to know how to Nålebinde. So thank you for watching, and I hope that you learned something fantastic and that you will try this out. I hope you have a wonderful day, and happy Nålebinding.